morning, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning?
Great.
Come on, I need to hear a little bit more enthusiasm out of the group. How is everyone doing this morning? All right. Well, we want to first welcome you all to the very first user conference here for Zoho in the U.S., Zoholics. So thanks for everyone joining us here in San Francisco. I know some of you came from just around the corner. Some of you came from the corner of the globe. So we wanted to kind of first do a really interesting look at the demographics here. So if you're from the Bay Area, raise your hand. Wow, pretty good amount of people. How about California? Okay. How about the Pacific time zone? I'm making you use your brains. I know it's early morning, but California, Nevada, those areas. All right, the Central? Eastern? All right, the enthusiastic East Coaster there. All right, so now I need a show of hands for those who came from outside the U.S.
Wow.
Great. Congratulations. I don't have anything to give you guys, but compression socks or maybe a sleeping mask for your flight home. We'll work something out. So the way that broke down, I have a couple of statistics for you. So there's actually folks here from 20 different states, and we have 7 countries represented as well here today from the user conference. So we wanted to give a big round of applause for everyone that made the travel here, whether it's short or long. We really appreciate it. So just a few housekeeping notes. Everyone should have received a white bag with Zoho with a handful of goodies inside. One of the most important goodies is probably the one that doesn't mean anything to you as far as monetary, and that would be the agenda. But it's chock full of information, of course, about today and then also about our speakers. So one thing that I wanted to mention while everybody's shuffling it out is that on the training track, we do have a change. The 10 a.m. slot for the training track currently says Zoho CRM, the perfect balance between automation and productivity. We're actually going to change that with the one down there at 12, which is customizing CRM for your business. So as soon as we get done with the keynote here, there's 2 different rooms that you guys can choose to go into. There is the training track, which is actually the room directly behind this wall on the right-hand side here. Inside that is just as it sounds. It's CRM training. It's also training on some of the other Zoho products. We encourage anyone that is in there that has some questions to ask away, fire away. This is your event. It's not one that we've put on for to pat ourselves on the back and say how proud we are that we did a nice event. It's directly for you guys. It's for you guys to get what you want out of it. So we'll start, that'd be the only change in the training track, so the rest of it is as you see. In the breakout rooms, we'll be going over kind of what's new in Zoho, what directions we're planning to go, and also some kind of industry and some kind of experts going on and talking a little bit about just the trends of business, Web 2.0, SaaS applications, just kind of the general information that you guys might need to determine what Zoho products you want to get ultimately. So we encourage you guys to bounce back and forth. So just because you land in a training room doesn't mean you have to sit through something if you have already the knowledge that you need from that. We feel that bouncing back and forth is the best way to observe the conference here today. So just a few more housekeeping notes. We have a gentleman by the name of David Spark. David, would you mind raising your hand? David is joining us, and his role with us is kind of doing some customer interviews, perhaps even some testimonials. If you guys absolutely love Zoho or love the way we've designed our CRM or want to talk about CRM in general or accounting software in general, David would be your guy. And if he happens to tap you on the shoulder and you're a little camera shy, don't feel free to just ignore him. So. No, David's going to be a great help for us, and we really encourage you guys to get some FaceTime with David. Well, as you see here, we have a beautiful venue, and we are very thankful for being able to host it here at the hotel, the Hilton. We wanted to go really big for this event, spend a lot of money, get a celebrity here, and do something really, really fun. But then we realized you guys pay us $12 and $25 per user for CRM, so we couldn't afford Metallica. So I guess you'll have to go down the street if you want to see Metallica play and be forced to pay much, much more than you should for a CRM package. There's a little joke there. Very low. So as you can tell, in the back we have some recording devices. So we are recording the event. So anything you do will be on record. So be careful what you do. No, we just really wanted to share the conference with each and every one of you guys. So you'll be able to take the presentations home with you. You'll be able to hear everything. You'll be able to see everything. So we'll be able to send that information to you guys so that those who couldn't attend see what they missed out on. So, one other small housekeeping note. We have a couple of guests that have rode their bicycles here, which we applaud the greenness of you guys and lowering your carbon footprint. You put the bikes outside, and the hotel staff actually did you a favor and moved them inside to a secure location. They just didn't want your bikes to get stolen here. So whoever the bike owners are, you can come see me, and I'll give you the details of what secret chamber they're in here at the hotel. The last note or two, especially during the training sessions, if you guys have a desire or a need to fulfill that one lingering question that is really bugging you, we encourage you guys to pull any member of the Zoho team, which are easily identifiable with your white Zoho polo shirts that you guys got in your bag. So lined up across the back there, guys, wave your hands. The Zoho crew. So feel free to ask any of these folks, your question. If they can't answer it, they'll make sure to get you in the right person's ear that can answer the question for you. So, if you have a lingering question about email templates or color changes to your design, if you want to know how to add a series of notes onto the Zoho CRM or talk about the invoicing package, feel free to ask one of these guys. So, the last note I have for you guys is we want you guys to share your own story. So an important part of this event for us is hearing the feedback from you guys and hearing what works and what doesn't work. I think everyone that's dealt with Zoho specifically will understand that we use our users' feedback for product enhancements, for improvements. So this is your time to tell us, hey, we need this feature, or I wish it would work this way. That's the only way we're going to get this product better for you guys, so we really appreciate you guys sharing your successes and your failures with us so that we can make our product better. So without further ado, I would like to bring up our first keynote speaker. This gentleman is joining us and really kind of wants to focus on how technology is changing and how the companies that are doing it right really are following these emerging trends. CRM, for example, social CRM, these type of kind of revolutionary technologies that are coming in and really making businesses, especially small businesses, stronger. So I'd like to introduce a columnist, an author, and a Zoho partner, Mr. Gene Marks. Please give him a round of applause.
Give me just a minute, guys. Yeah. Let's see if we can close this out. I need help closing this out. headquarters, yeah. Would you mind, because we're in the Zoho show, I can get to my desktop.
Okay.
You can get me there, and my PowerPoint is there as well. Guys, good morning. Thanks for, first of all, the man that's coming up here to help me out, I want to give a round of applause to him because you, and also Steve Hall. Raise your hand, please. These guys are really responsible for pulling all this together, and I want to thank you guys very much for doing just that. Thanks. Should I pull that up? And I think, well, actually, I can do that as well. I will get things going. You know, we have about 45 minutes to spend together. And I wanted to go through just a few things with you. There we go. And let's start this up. Here we go. Great, thanks. So, let me get started first. So my name is Gene Marks. Thanks for having me out. I live in Philadelphia, on the other side of the country. I do a lot of writing. I also run a company, a 10-person company. It's a technology firm. We are a CRM application, Zoho being one of them. You talk about who you know. I have a real good friend who I knew back in my days when I was working in the world of accounting, who eventually left accounting and he went to become the CFO of the Philadelphia Phillies. And he's been CFO there for about 6-7 years. And I don't know if it's right for me to bring up the Phillies here in a room with a bunch of Giants fans. So he was CFO of the Phillies for a number of years. And every year, as he works at the Phillies, he would send to me an email with a form that I could fill out to go to any postseason games. And every year, being a lifelong Philadelphian, I optimistically filled out the form to go out to these postseason games. And I would always request tickets for every single postseason game. As most of you guys know or don't know, Phillies made the postseason in 2007, then they made the postseason again in 2008. That year, by the way, the story has a point. That year, when I filled out the form, I requested tickets to every single Phillies postseason game in 2008. And as it turned out, myself and my two sons, they were like 14 and 13 years old, we wound up going to every single postseason game that year. We sat in the same seats in left field, about 8 seats behind the left fielder, all throughout the entire fall. Now, my wife is from England, so she doesn't know like a baseball from a cricket ball, so she didn't even understand why we were going to all these games. And you guys probably know, like the games, they start like 10 o'clock at night and end at 2 in the morning, and I'm pulling the kids out of school to go to these games, but even so we're at these games. Behind the left fielder is where we sat through all of the series. So the Brewers came into town, the Phillies beat them, then the Dodgers came into town. During the time, Manny Ramirez was the left fielder for the Dodgers. And you cannot imagine the abuse that you would get from the left field fans being out there. So they came in and finally went into the World Series. And in the World Series, the Phillies were playing Tampa Bay Rays. So, of course, the entire city of Philadelphia is watching, and the 4 fans that follow the Tampa Bay Rays were watching as well. And we went through that series. It was cold, it was tough, and my wife was like, when is this going to end? When is this going to end? I don't know how many of you guys knew about the 2008 World Series, but when we hit Game 5 of the World Series, they actually interrupted the game in the middle. It was like the 7th inning because the weather was so bad. They stopped the game in the very middle, and they sent everybody home. And we had to wait for like 3 days to find out eventually when like the game would be resumed, right? Because they couldn't end the game in the middle of the game. It was a World Series deciding game, right? Okay. So we went home, we had our ticket stubs, we went back. We were in bottom of the 7th inning and then the top of the 8th inning of Game 5 of the World Series. And Rocco Baldelli comes up from the Rays. Anybody like knows who he is? And he hits a home run. And my son catches the ball. Right? Wow. So he's in left field and he's got this ball. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever seen like a World Series baseball, but it's like a genuine thing. Like it says on it, 2008 World Series. It's like not a joke, right? So he's got the ball in his hand, and I don't know what the rule is in San Francisco, but like when an opposing player hits a home, yeah, you throw it back. That's exactly right. So in Philly, it's the same way, except sometimes you throw batteries back at the same time. When he's got the ball, and he's got half of the section screaming at him, throw it back, and he's got the other half of the section saying, no, hold on, don't throw it back, it's a souvenir. So he's got the ball, and he looks up at me, his wise, sage father, walking the earth for all these many years. What kind of advice can I give? He said, Dad, what do I do? I don't know what any of you guys would say, but here's what I said. I said, these the hell out of me. Luckily, 3 rows in front of us were 2 guys, and they had been there the entire postseason. Guys my age, right? Both of them wearing big red wigs. Red wigs they were wearing. They were wearing no shirts. It was like 30 degrees out. Painted completely white with a big P on their chest and beads, just idiots, right? They were there the entire postseason cheering on the Phillies. One of the guys turned around and he said, "Hey Sam," of course everybody knew my kid's name. We've been to like all these games, right? And he reached into his bag and he pulls out a Little League baseball. And he hands it to my son. And he says, "Throw this ball back."
Brilliant.
My son throws the ball back. Of course, this is like 7 pitches into the next batter. So they like stop the game, and collect the ball, and whatever. And my son had, what is the point of this story, right? There is actually a point. The point is this. I have a 14 and a 13-year-old kid, 2 boys. We have probably 800 Little League baseballs sitting around our house. And I am such a dope that I can't think ahead. But balls are landing all around us for the entire postseason. We're sitting in left field. I didn't think to myself, I ought to bring a ball with me. Even if my kid doesn't catch the ball, I can maybe look like a hero to somebody else's kid by giving him the ball. Just thinking ahead, right? And that is really what we're here to talk about today. Because in the next few minutes, there are trends that's going on all around us. Now, we are business people. We're owners, we're entrepreneurs, we're managers, we're whatever, right? It is our job to understand the trends that lay out before us. Because we need to understand these things because people rely on us. We have employees that rely on us. We have partners, we have customers, we have vendors, we have family members. We got to be thinking ahead. Certain things are going on in the world of technology that's affecting all of us right now. And what we need to do is we need to think about those things and make decisions now that will affect us 2, 3, 4 years from now. Because that's what smart people are doing right now. So like I should have been thinking ahead. If I'm going to a game, I bring a ball with me because that might have an impact on the people around me or my own kids. We got to be thinking the same thing. Fair enough? So what I'd like to get through this morning, I want to go through just a few of these trends and how they're affecting us. How some of my clients, the people that I write about, the people that I interview, the people that are all of us in business right now, are thinking about how they're handling these specific trends. You ready? The first trend I want to talk about is this. It's CRM, Customer Relationship Management. When I talk about winning companies are using CRM the right way. Now, I know Paul Greenberg is here. He is speaking today at 1:15, Paul, is that right? Okay. Please come to his presentation. Paul is a leading visionary in the area of CRM. And he is going to be telling you where CRM is going and the trends that are affecting us. And I want to hear what he's got to say. But let me tell you something. CRM, in my experience, has a different kind of use for many of us as small business owners. And I want to share with you how smart small business, the clients of mine, are really using. I'll give you an example. My wife is English. So we go to England every year, like 3-4 times a year. We've been married, if you can imagine, like 22 years. It's kind of hard to believe. And even before we got married, we were going to England. We have taken the same flight from Philadelphia to Heathrow 4 times a year, ourselves or with our kids or in a combination of both. The same people are checking us in at the Philadelphia airport for the past 2 decades. It's the same guys. They're a little shorter and a little grayer at the time, but it's still the same people that are checking us in. And every single time we go to check in for our flight, it's like the first time they've ever seen us. Like no one ever be like, "Oh, hey, Mrs. Marks, it's nice to see you. Glad to have you back. Here's a free Coke." Nothing. It's like we're not. It's like we've never been seen before. Not that the airline is bad, their service is great, and all that kind of stuff, but we don't feel very loved, right? Well, I'll tell you something. We have in my company about 600 active clients that we serve using CRM systems like Zoho CRM. We've got about 3 dozen that use Zoho CRM. And here's what I've learned from them. We have had many successes with them, and we have had many bitter failures with them too. And I've learned from some of the people, the smart people that use these systems right, what they've done right. And here's what they've done. I'll share with you a couple secrets. Number 1, CRM should do 2 things for a small business, in my opinion, because I've seen it with my own eyes. Number 1, if a CRM system is used right, nothing should fall through the cracks. Nothing should fall through the cracks. CRM systems, no matter how much we hear about all the features and the bells and the whistles, that it's cloud, it's not cloud, it's this, it's that, it's mobile, doesn't make a difference. It's a database. A CRM system is nothing more than a database. Now that database might be in your company, or it might be hosted in the cloud, but that's all it is, right? If a CRM system is being used the right way, if your people are doing the work in it the right way, nothing should fall through the cracks. A client or a customer says to you, we're not interested in that now. Give us a call back in November. Gets in the system. So somebody gets a reminder about it in November. You issue a quote or you send out a proposal to somebody, goes in the system. So that 2 weeks later, somebody's getting a reminder. That quote is out there. You just did a job for somebody and you think, you know what? 6 months from now, they'd probably be interested in that add-on product of ours or some other kind of service. It goes in the system. Right? Nothing falls through the cracks. Everything gets reminded. That's the number one thing a CRM system should do. And number two, just as importantly, if a CRM system is used well, no one should look like a dope. No one. And what I mean by that is that you've got a shared database. And what is worse than when you call up a company and you have to get the same information again and again as you get through layers and layers of people in that company? What is worse when you call up, I don't know, your roofer who you've been doing, or your landscaper, and then you recognize your name or know who you are, and they have to ask you to look you up, right? So what happens if a CRM system is used well? Whoever picks up the phone knows what's going on with you, because they've got the system up in front of them. And oh, hi, Mrs. Jones, good to see you. I see our James was just out to see you last week, and I see your son's getting out of prison next month. That's really great to hear. Or you're a Giant, or whatever. As long as that information is in the system, nobody looks like a ghost. It takes a lot of work to do because it's a database. The database has got to be filled out and completed and worked on and all of that. But I'll tell you something, if it's doing that, you will have accomplished a big thing. You're not looking like a dope. So what have I seen really successful clients do when they're looking at CRM systems? They do three things, three important things. Number one, if you have CRM, if you have Zoho CRM, if you have any other CRM system out there that's whatever, right? You need to have an administrator on top of it. Zoho does not cost $25 a month a user. There is more of a cost to you. And it doesn't just cost for like guys like us or Zoho partners to come in and customize it or train you or whatever. That's fine. There is a hidden cost to all CRM systems, and that's a cost of your internal people. One person has got to take ownership of your system. And if they take ownership of your CRM system, that's the person that's going to cost you a little bit because they're going to spend time on it. Who is that person? Is it an IT person? No, God forbid. You do not want IT people involved in your CRM system. They'll just screw it up. Right? What you want is you want a good, smart admin person. Right? You want Pam from the office, you know? I mean, nothing's getting by her. She's smart, right? You want somebody that's not afraid of diapering your salesmen, wiping their noses, kicking them in the butts if need be. You want somebody that owns the database. You want somebody that if there's anything wrong in your CRM system, if it's out of date, if it's incorrect, if it hasn't been filled out the right way, that's the go-to person to say, there's something wrong in the system. Is it their fault that it's wrong? No. It's just their responsibility to make sure that it gets right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the smart companies that I know, the winning companies that are using CRM the right way, number one, they're making sure nothing falls through the cracks. Number two, they're making sure nobody looks like a dope, right? And number three is they've invested in an internal person that owns the database. And whenever I go out to a prospective client that's looking at Zoho, and they think they're going to snap their fingers and it's all going to magically update and do and whatever, and nobody has, it's going to be a mess. It will turn into a glorified Rolodex, and that's exactly what you don't want to have. So that's another thing. Number four, I think it was 5 in total when I started out with 3. Number four, refinement that admin, you need to make sure that your management buys into your CRM system. If they don't adopt it as culture, you will fail. If it's not being driven by the VP of sales, the sales manager, the owner, whatever, they will fail. I have like 5-6 times a year, I get these opportunities to work with people that just get it, because they're the ones that own the system. So you want to make sure that it's a culture. In my company, I have 10 employees. Everything goes to our CRM system because it's coming from me. We live in there. That's what we do. If you want to work in my company, that's what you do. So you want to make sure that you've got that culture too, because it's a database. And believe me, good CRM systems take a lot of work. You finish an appointment, you're sitting there logging it in, right? You make a phone call, you're taking your notes. You're scheduling your follow-ups. You're making sure this guy's doing this or this guy's doing that. all in your CRM system. It takes work to do. It doesn't come overnight. And the only way people are going to do their work is if management is following up with them. Right? The last thing about a good CRM system for companies that are doing it the right way is they make sure, and this is a secret that I just found out, because CRM is a database, you know what? It's all about reports. It's all about reports coming out of the system. I never realized that until about 5-6 years ago. And I'll tell you the reason why. I have another client, he's a sales manager, right? He left his company and he went to join another company. And when he went to the other company, he said, Gene, we want to get this CRM system. Not that it's any better or worse than anything else out there, but that's what I want you to install, because that's what I'm used to using. I want you to install it, and I want these 5 reports that I use to manage my sales guys. That's what I have. And I want you to put it in, set up the reports, train my sales guys to do what they got to do so I get my reports. The guys that I've seen in small businesses and medium-sized businesses really succeed with CRM systems is when they drive it off of reports. Do you guys have reports that you're running from the system? If you don't, it's okay, but you should. And what do I mean by reports? Just some ideas. Every Monday, you get your new leads report, or new calls in report, or your opportunity report, or your pipeline report, your open quotes report, your age quote report, your report of service calls that came in last week, right? If you're using a spreadsheet right now to do any of your sales or your service tracking, right, because a lot of people do that, get rid of it. Your CRM system should be doing that because it's a database. So when you're relying on your CRM system to do just that, you're going to generate reports out of your system and your people will be using them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And what will happen as well is that the guys that are not using the CRM system for reports, do we have a problem with the mic? Sure. The guys that are not using the CRM system for reports are the guys that will fall out and shake out quickly. Does that sound better? Is that okay? Yep. Right? Okay. And what I mean, much better on my voice. What I mean by that is that if you have 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 people that are using your CRM system, what happens is like those 2 guys are not doing the work in it. When you're getting your report of open opportunities or open quotes or calls in and there's no data from those guys, you know that right away. Those are the guys that kind of stick out. So I can tell you that secret that most successful people that I know use CRM systems, they drive it off of reports. And one final thing about reports, when you're implementing a CRM system, if you bought Zoho already or if you're thinking of buying Zoho, black and white, you say at the beginning, you know what? After 30 days, I want to make darn sure I'm generating these 3 reports out of my system. If I'm generating them, I've succeeded. If I'm not generating them, I failed. So you know when you hear what's the metric for CRM and how do you judge it if it's successful or not? You can't get any more black and white than that. And if you failed at generating those reports and you can't figure out why, it might just be that your culture is not so good for CRM. There's nothing wrong with that. You're still okay. Still love you. But that could be what the situation is. So winning companies are using CRM the right way. And again, my 5, and I hope I don't forget all 5, because 5 is a high number for me. Number 1, they're making sure that nothing falls through the cracks. They're making sure that nobody looks like a dope. They have invested in a good administrator to look over the system. They have their top managers adopt CRM as their culture in their company. This is it. If anything's going on, it gets into Zoho. If we're having an appointment or call, it's in Zoho. That's the way it is. And number 5, they're using reports. They've got 3, 4, 5 key reports that they're running their business out of, and it's coming out of their CRM system. If you've got those 5 things in place, you will succeed with CRM like these winning companies. If you don't, you will probably fail. And it's not even worth going down the effort of doing that. I'm just telling you, that's been my experience, and that's what I've seen with a lot of clients that have succeeded and failed. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Go ahead.
Just real quick.
Sure.
I only count 4.
No, he only counted 4. Wait, okay. Wait. I'm going to start at the top. So we're going to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. That's 1. Number 2, no one looks like a dope. That's 2. Right. That's 2. I snuck that in. Number 3, having an administrator, investing in an administrator. Number 4, making sure that your management buy-in, it's your culture. And number 5, it's all about reports. That is 5. Fair enough?
Put it on the slideshow.
Yeah, I know. I got to get on the slideshow as well. I'm trying to keep it simple here. Not a big PowerPoint here. Number 2, winning companies today in 2002 are correctly choosing which cloud to use. And no, I don't mean this cloud. I'm talking about other types of clouds. And what do I mean by which cloud to use? Zoho is a cloud-based company. We know that. Everything they do is online. It's cloud-based. All the applications that they have, that's great and wonderful. The reality is that we're still not a completely cloud-based world. It takes some time to get there. The reality is that many of my clients, they still have, I don't know, Microsoft Office in their office, or they have QuickBooks, or they have other things that just happen to be in their office and on their server. That's the way it is. So 2 things have been happening, trends to keep aware of, that I've actually experienced in my company. About 7-8 years ago, my company, I'm like the world's biggest cheapskate. I shut down our offices outside of Philadelphia, and everybody works from home, and I took the server that had our applications at the time, and I put it in the basement of my house, right next to the cat's litter box. And I set up, like, Windows Terminal Server, right? Citrix, right? There's a ton of them. I go to my PC as another remote. I set up Windows Terminal Server, remote desktop, and everybody in my company was remote desktopping in, and it worked great. And I know that most people here get it, but if you're not doing that, and you have an internal applications or a database, and you want everybody to get access to, remote desktop, for better or for worse for Microsoft, it's free with Windows Server. I think it's $99 a client to buy one time. It works really well. It's just something that if you have something internal that you need your employees to get to, it's not on the cloud yet, that's something to consider. And remember, there are so many companies out there with existing ERP and manufacturing systems that they just can't change it over the cloud overnight. They have it inside, and it's working for them. They just want to give people access to it so they can get it from their tablets, their iPads, or whatever. Fair enough? So you set up an internal cloud, private cloud. That's been working really well. It's been popular, and it's been successful. Remote desktop, Citrix, whatever. Now, about a year and a half ago, that kind of failed on me. I was away, and I was trying to connect into my server, which is down in the basement, and I couldn't connect, and none of my employees could connect to it. So when I finally got home, I went down to the server, and I discovered that for the past 7 years, my cat was peeing on the server instead of in the litter box. And I don't want to go into big detail as to the chemical properties of cat's urine, but let's just say it's quite corrosive, besides the stench. And it does have an impact on plastic things, including this little clip that held together. You're looking like you're going to be sick. This little clip that held together the fan in my server. So the cats, whatever, corroded this clip. The fan broke off. It fell over. The server. Bottom line was the server was down. Okay, so it's down. And I've got 10 people that need to do work on my internal cloud, right? So I pick up the server, and I take it to a computer store, and the tech guy picking his nose with the black rim glasses and the Red Bulls on. He couldn't help me, right? I eventually had to take it to 2 other tech places before they were finally able to. Bottom line was, a week, my company was down, right? And I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't have a server in the basement of my house. This private cloud thing for me as a small business is not going to work. So I did what so many other people are considering doing now as well. I went to a cloud workspace company, right? So IT firms everywhere, a proliferation of them. If you Google cloud workspace, will allow you to take whatever applications you have or databases you have that you still have in your company because you're not using them on the cloud for whatever reason, and they will host it all for you. So what I did is I took my QuickBooks and my Microsoft Office and whatever else I had internally, I gave it all to them. And then I took that server to a field and in that last seat of Office Space. But I got rid of it. No more IT guys, no more Red Bulls, no more Black Rim Blood, none of that, right? It just went out. And now this company hosts those applications for me. And I see so many small businesses doing the exact same right now. They're having other companies just host their applications. Because remember, there's cloud-based applications like Zoho offers, and then there's just cloud-based services that so many IT firms offer, and it is completely fine and completely normal, and what I'm seeing is popular, to do them both. So you can operate completely in a cloud-based world nowadays. Does that make sense, right? So the leaders in this, believe it or not, Amazon.com has a service called EC2, Elastic Cloud Computing, right? And their competitor is Rackspace. EC2, I don't know, first of all, it's $1 billion business for Amazon. It's enormous. They're not selling enough DVDs and books. They got to do this too. I've seen them, the clients that use them. Just so you know, with EC2, I don't know the size that you guys are, but I can tell you right now, for probably just a few $1,000s a year, you could take your internal applications and host it with them, or Rackspace. But there's a catch. If you're going to host your applications with them, you got to know a little something about technology. They'll rent you the server, but then you got to get in there and install Windows Server and do the security, and you got to be a bit of a technology guy, right? So what I did, because I'm not that kind of a guy, is I had an IT firm just do it for me. They host it all. So I didn't have to be responsible for the security, the services, all that kind of stuff. They take care of it all. They update Windows and all the new builds and all of that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now, that cost me about $50 to $75 a month a user. And it's a huge, huge trend. So, as you're looking at Zoho and you're looking at doing stuff in the cloud, there are all those applications there to do. And what I'm finding from many people saying, you know what? We want to use Zoho applications, but gee, what about our internal application that we love so much that's doing the job for us? Does that mean we have to completely change everything over and go to the cloud and that's so disruptive and I'd rather just not do anything at all? Well, no. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can go to Zoho applications, use the applications that you want, and if you still like your internal applications, have an IT firm host it for you. All you need to do is just Google Cloud Workspace. That'll bring up whatever IT. And by all means, I can recommend a few firms to you as well. That's a huge trend that I'm seeing this year as well. Not only using CRM the right way, but choosing which cloud to use is an enormous trend. Everybody with me so far? Mm-hmm. Let me get to the third trend that I'm seeing. And this trend is interesting because it's all about building communities. Now, we hear about social networking and social CRM and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all, and that's fine. That's all the kind of stuff that's really, really good for many small companies that can make something out of it. I come across a lot of companies that get absolutely no value from Facebook at all. I mean, I'm presented a couple weeks ago to the Association of Composite Can Manufacturers. And you can imagine, like, there's just not a lot of Facebook customers on the composite. We're talking about composite can manufacturing, you can imagine, right? But that doesn't mean that small businesses aren't building communities, because they are. And what they're doing in 2012 and 2013 is they're using all sorts of technologies to build the communities to keep people close. So I'm going to give you some simple answers. About 7 years ago, I took an RV trip with my family. Has anybody here taken like an RV trip? Like you rent an RV? It's a lot of fun. It was like a 32-foot RV I'm driving. You're about like a bald little guy like me driving. But they're very easy to drive. It's like a minivan when you get into it. So we rented it from a place in New Jersey, and with like rents like tons of RVs. And we drove all the way up to Niagara Falls via Cooperstown, and then you get this kind of a baseball thing going on in my family. And we went, to Niagara Falls and back. It was like about 10 days in the RV, and we had a great time doing it. Other than like halfway through, we had this like small incident with the RV's toilet. It wasn't like what you've seen in like the movie with Tom Hanks, but it was an incident, and it was about 10 o'clock at night. And don't worry, I'm not going to go into any detail on that. But it was 10 o'clock at night, and we had to call the RV place about this problem. They picked up the phone, they responded, they walked me through what to do to fix it. They were like awesome. They were awesome. We had a great time on this RV trip, right? We returned the RV, give it back, paid the remainder, all that good stuff. That was 7 years ago. I have not heard boo from that RV company. And it's been 7 years. And we had like a great time on this RV trip. I'm the kind of guy that if I was getting some kind of communication from them, anything, we're actually a special on your RVs for the weekend, you can take it to the shore, I might have taken them up on something. I mean, I guess things have been so great in the RV industry that this company had no reason to reach out to me, right? A satisfied customer and say, hey, we'd like to. That's just not what you do in 2012. So even if you're not a Facebook fan or a LinkedIn fan, that doesn't mean you don't have a community. You do have a community. It's your customers. And not just your customers, but your prospective customers. When you've got people that are happy with your services, you have to stay in touch with them. That RV firm, to use them as an example, if they had signed up with Constant Contact, for example, a Zoho partner, right? For like, it's like $50 a month, you can send 8 million emails or some crazy thing like that. Just to use them as an example, right? For cheap, they could keep in contact with me with something. A once-a-month newsletter and email. And think about it, not that they're promoting their service, some type of camping tip, RV tip, something about it, whatever. Something I would have enjoyed. I would have signed up for that. I would have been getting it. And then I would have thought about taking them up on an offer maybe for a free weekend or a discount or whatever. Why didn't they do that, right? In this world of all of the email applications out there, Constant Contact, MailChimp. People know other Django Mail is another one. There's a bunch of them that are out there. They're wonderful. They're easy to set up. They're inexpensive. If you've got a customer base, there's no reason why you shouldn't be reaching out to your customers. Using email is a great way to do it, and it's inexpensive. Now remember, they should be coming from your CRM database. If you're having any type of communication with your customers, you have to ask them, can I communicate with you via email, so that they opt in? And then you can integrate Zoho, for example, with Constant Contact to use some of the other services. And by the way, if you don't even choose to use one of Zoho's partners, oh my God, God forbid, you can still export any contacts you want to a spreadsheet. Most of these email services will allow you to import the information into them as well, and then you can send that stuff up. A couple of tips on email marketing, by the way, not just marketing, but staying in contact. You send an email between 10 and 3 o'clock during the day. Eastern time, by the way, right? Yes, for Eastern time. Because that's when apparently they get read the most. This came as a surprise, but apparently people are not reading emails at 2 in the morning, except for the guys at Zoho who are working 24 hours a day anyway, right? So you send it in the middle of the day. The other thing to keep in mind when you're sending emails, just 2 other tips that I've learned from our friends at Constant. Number 1, all about the subject line if you want people to open your emails. All about the subject line. Don't just say, our February newsletter. Who cares? There's got to be something in your subject line that entices me to open it up. Special offer on this, or do you have a flat tire in your RV this month? Do you have, rodents in your house? Something that just gets people's attention, right? And number 3, when you're sending out the emails, right, just bear in mind, never have more than 3 little tips on your email, 3 items. Should all come above the fold. You don't want to inundate people with a whole bunch of information. There's lots of other things you can keep in mind when you're doing emails, but just bear in mind, those are just 3 things to kind of get you better. If you've got a database of your customers and prospects in Zoho CRM or any other CRM application, that's your community. So you should be staying in touch with them that way. Now, let's say you don't like emails. Oh my God, some people don't like getting emails, right? Other people have different ways that they'd like to be contacted. So some people, I have one lady I know, her name is Juanelle Teague. She lives down in Texas, in the Dallas area. She is an engineer. She sends, now brace yourself, I know we're in the Bay Area, she sends postcards every month. Oh my God, right? She has a mailing and post, she doesn't do emails. She uses Vistaprint. Printplace is another real popular one. Those are great services, right? Cheap. It's like $1 a postcard, and she sends out maybe, 1,000, 2,000 every single month. A couple of months ago, she took a trip to Washington. It was her and her husband and their 5 granddaughters, if you can imagine, and a big bottle of Jack Daniels too. And they took a picture of all of them right in front of the White House, and they advertised it as my trip to Washington. And on the back, on her postcard, she just writes a simple messages. She's not promoting her services. Her thing is she wants to keep in touch with her clients and her friends and just build relationships. So she's not pushing her. So she talked about her little trip to Washington and what it meant to her and how it made her feel patriotic and how much she loved it and all that kind of stuff. So bear in mind, if you don't want to send emails, or you want to send emails and there are some customers that want to get something hard copy, send postcards or send letters. There are some sites out there, Morguefile.com. Has anyone ever tried Morguefile? Thousands, hundreds of thousands of free photos that you can use royalty-free. You can put that on any graphic you want, emails or postcards or mailings you want. It's called Morguefile, as in dead people in a morgue, Morguefile. Another one that's really cool, Simpsonize Me. You ever been to simpsonizeme.com? That site will take any photo of a person, turn them into a Simpsons character. No way, so you can make fun of them that way. In addition, another one, Mag My Pick is another good one. It takes any major magazine like Fortune and Forbes and whatever, and you can put your own picture on the cover. You know what I mean? Best company of the year, sexiest man alive, whatever. You put it on the cover of the magazine, and then you use that as your graphic when you're sending out emails or if you're sending out actual printed postcards. Does that make sense? Yeah. So remember, in 2012, people like to get communications in different ways. Now, other people don't like to get emails or they don't like to get postcards. They want to be communicated in your community, but they like to get a phone call. Oh my God. They want to be updated on new things that you're doing or safety information or product announcement or whatever by getting a phone call. So there's 2 really great services for that. There's one called VoiceShot. Remember VoiceShot.com, and another one is called CallingPost.com. And what do those 2 services do? You upload a spreadsheet to them. You call them, you record the message, and it blasts out the message to everybody on your spreadsheet. right? Now remember, it's an opt-in thing, and as we're seeing, a lot of different people are, if you have kids in school, you get you guys have noticed in the day, you get the school announcement because of snow closings or whatever, they have all the automated systems to do that, right? So it's the same concept, and it's cheap. It's like something like 5 cents a call to do, right? So you upload it, it blasts it out. Somehow it handles email as well. Wonderful service if that's how your customers want to be connected. Also super if you're like a manager of a little league team or a soccer team. That way you can blast out a call to all the parents when the field changes, and you don't have to listen to why their kid doesn't get enough playing time on the team. So you use those services both personally, and you can use them professionally as well. Another way, just, you know what? It's 2012. Yeah, I don't like getting emails. I mean, sometimes I read what's mailed to me. Don't bother me with phone calls. I'm in a texting world. I want to get my information via text because that's how I operate, man. And frankly, anybody with teenage kids, that's how they operate too. I have not spoken to my 16-year-old daughter in like 18 months. It's all text-based. And there's a really great service that does that. Tatango is one that I really love. Tatango, Tatango. Same concept as all the other ones we talked about, the mailings and the emailings and whatever. What you do is instead is you upload all the people that have opted in for getting a text message, and you put that in there, and then you type in your text message, blast it out to everybody that's there. Does that make sense? So everybody gets a text message that way. Because maybe you have clients that just want to be notified of a product problem or an update or a safety issue or whatever, and that's how they want to find out. One final thing is video. Because we live in a video world. So people like to get their information that way, or at least some of the time. So one service that I like, and I wrote about it, some people have issues with it, Talk Fusion. Has anybody ever tried Talk Fusion before? First of all, it's like a multi-layer marketing company. So be careful. Like, if you try and get Talk Fusion, you got to get it from a Talk Fusion guy, and then he's going to ask you to, like, sell it to your friends and family, so everybody gets, like, 2 cents. I remember when I was in my 20s, I tried to do it long distance. Never works out that way. Put that aside and look at the technology itself. What Talk Fusion does, it's the same thing as an email marketing, same thing as printing, same thing as texting, same thing as voice, except it's video. So you sign on with them. You upload a video. You can upload up to 5 minutes. For God's sake, don't make it 5 minutes long, right? A couple of 1 minute, it's probably fine, right? You upload your list. You blast out a video, an email to all the people on the list. Now, it does not attach a video to it or a link to a video. The video is embedded in the email itself. It has that little that play button. It's like a picture with the play button, and you play it, and then it'll automatically start playing. It's actually be playing off their website, but it's embedded in the actual message itself. Because some people like to get their message that way. Maybe it's like, you know what? We've been getting emails. We've been sending emails to you every month. This month we're sending you this email because we'd like you to meet everybody from our family, you know what I mean? Or everybody in the office. So we'd like to walk in just a minute to kind of tell you what we're all about. Kind of cool. And what you do is you mix it up, because that's what winning companies are doing nowadays. You get an email 1 month, you might get a postcard for the next 2 months, you get another email, maybe a text message, as long as everybody is opted into it. That's how you keep in touch with your customers. That's how you build your communities in 2012, because you're using these tools to do that. Now, some of these are Zoho partners and some of them are not, but they're all really great technologies that are out there. So even if you're not a Facebook company or a LinkedIn company or whatever company that you're on social media, this is what we mean by building communities, and that's what I'm seeing as a big trend this year. Everybody okay with that? Mm-hmm. All right. So, because I'm out of time, I'm going to wrap things up, but I do want to just mention one final thing here. When I look at what winning companies are doing, they're using CRM the right way. I gave you the five things that they do. They're choosing which cloud to use. Remember, the private cloud, the internal cloud, or something external if you don't want to go completely cloud-based applications. And they're building communities. It doesn't matter if it's all Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. You build communities your own way using the tools that are out there. Now, when I got married, my dad told me something about knowing your history. First of all, again, got married like 22 years ago. He actually gave me these 3 pieces of advice, right? He said, one, Gene, getting married would be the last decision you'll ever make. That was good advice. He said, if your wife is happy, everyone is happy. And that was like amazing advice to give. And then the third thing he said, know your history and enjoy the ride. I mean, we're in an era right now, like was said earlier, right before I started, we are in an area now of technology that's unprecedented. We can start up companies, work out of our homes at the lowest kind of overhead era. We are in an era right now where the Goths are not sacking the Bay Area right now as we talk. There is not bubonic plague wiping out 30% of our population, for goodness sake. We do not have mass genocide. Anybody here from Pittsburgh or the Pittsburgh area? Right? Nobody is? Okay, because most of us are lucky we don't live in Pittsburgh, where they've had 19 losing seasons in a row. There's a lot of things to be grateful for because of the era that we're in. And I just want to make sure that we're clear. Because we're in this situation where we are with technology, because there are companies like Zoho that are offering hosted applications that are so inexpensive and so powerful, we have to appreciate that and take advantage of that because historically, it's like no other time. And remember, enjoy the ride because ultimately someday we're going to look like this. So, with that said, I'm happy to take any questions. I also wanted to say to you as well, I'll be here for lunch as well. I have a newsletter that I write. Every Monday I write a column for the New York Times. It comes out online called This Week in Small Business. And it's a combination of news, events, and commentary and blogs from super smart people, like Raymond Ray, for example, who has something to say that's important, that affects me and my business. And at the end of each month, I take the 10 things that I love the most from that month, and I stick it in a newsletter, and I'll send it out to anybody who wants to read it. So if you'd like that, it's completely free. Feel free to give me your business card now or during lunch if you see me, and I'll be happy to add you to the list. Doesn't cost anything. You can always opt out of it whenever you want. So before I end, any questions on any of the technology I talked about or anything related to Zoho as we are? Everybody good with whatever trends that we're looking at going forward? It's great. Guys, thank you very much, and I will turn it over to your host. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, we definitely want to thank Gene again for coming out and delivering such a great speech about what companies are doing to get ahead with certain technology. And we hope that Zoho is included in that. And we're going to make a promise to you that we're going to do everything we can to make sure that Zoho is the top of the list for you guys. So we're just about ready to jump back into the sessions where we'll first start out with the breakout session in the opposite end of the hallway. It's Running Your Business on Zoho by our VP of Marketing, Rodrigo Vaca. And then in the training track, we're switching the session there, and it's going to be customizing CRM for your business with one of our support engineers, Ricky. So we'll get you guys situated there. Just wanted to quickly give you guys a heads up on one of the items that's in your bag. So this little guy here is a solar charger. It's a really neat piece. Basically what it will do is it'll charge your cell phone or your iPad or there's a number of cables in there to make connections with. And you can choose to use solar power to charge that device, or you can actually plug in. There's a cord that goes into the, looks like it's into the in port, and it'll plug into a computer via USB, and it'll charge this device by your computer. So really neat little giveaway that we're hoping you guys utilize. It's again to be productivity anywhere you can possibly be with Zoho apps and solar chargers. So. Just real quick, I wanted to get a show of hands of how many people here are using CRM, Zoho CRM. Show of hands? Wow. Okay, great. One other thing I wanted to ask is, who else has tried any other Zoho product besides Zoho CRM? Excellent. Great. Well, we really appreciate you guys taking the dive with us and joining us in our products. Again, as I mentioned, feel free to... Yes?
Would you introduce yourself and your role?
Sure. My name is Mason Herring. I'm just the host for the event here, just a pretty face that you get to look at every day. That's really my role. No, I work on the marketing team here with Zoho and our other product line, Manage Engine. So The biggest announcement of the day, however, is lunch. So just want to let you guys know, you see it here, at least for me it is. I mean, you don't get this size without missing a few meals. So 12:30 is lunch. Lunch is actually in a couple of places. It'll actually be out here where the breakfast is, but you can come back and choose to sit here in the room here. We have a couple of tables and chairs in a room on the opposite side of the hallway. I hope if the weather permits, we'll also have some tables outside if you guys choose to join us on the outside kind of patio there as well. So without that, I'll let you guys stampede out of here and go to a training track or go to the breakout session.